All right, so we should get started. Um, First of all, I want to welcome you all to AAYSP first series of workshops on personal and professional development. My name is Abraham Alhomadi, and I am currently a master's student pursuing a master's in finance and economics with a focus on financial economics. And I had my bachelor's degree, which I obtained 5 years ago out of Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. And after that, for the past 5 years, I've had several experiences in the private sector, the public sector, as well as the nonprofit sector. So through shifts and transformations and transitions from one place to another, I learned so much in life from these positions that I held and from the people I worked with and the people I engaged with, and the mentors I've had actually in my both professional careers as well as my educational. And because of this valuable knowledge that I acquired, I thought it's worthwhile to pass that knowledge on to someone else so that they may continue the cycle of knowledge sharing and help someone else develop themselves personally and professionally. With that, let me get started. I'm going to share my PowerPoint presentation. All right, so the topic, as I mentioned, is essentially on resume and cover letter with a focus mainly on resumes, because that's the milestone of literally what you're trying to do when you're building a resume or cover letter for a position you're trying to secure. If we can, it starts with the resume, and if you have your resume all set and go, the cover letter just comes handy because you're literally going to marry the resume and the cover letter and trying to put those in the context of the position that you are applying to. If you, for those of you that have questions, you may post them in the comment box, whether on Facebook or any other platform. You may also share them with Adib, who is also on board with me, and a few other AAYSP members who would be able to be helpful and pass those questions on to me. Okay, so the two key words I want you to focus on and take away from this presentation is appeal and authenticity. Appeal is because this is what it comes down to. You're trying to make yourself more appealing than the crowd. And the crowd is the other candidates that are applying for the same positions that you are going for. And authenticity is you want to be yourself, because a lot of times when it comes to resume building, as is often the case with so many people, they tend to focus on others and not themselves. I think to build an effective resume, you have to shift the spotlight on yourself, because you have to get to know yourself and what you know and what you are capable of, so that you can make what you know shine, so that the person receiving the information, the person reading your resume can actually understand who you are through your own lens and not the lens of other people. And that's a very, very important point. So keep those two words in mind as I go through the presentation. All right, so first of all, I want to start off by helping you develop a framework for resume building. What does that mean? So I have an aphorism on here. It says, to get to where you want to go, you must know where you are now. What does that mean? What am I trying to do in sharing this aphorism with you? And what points do I want you to take away from this slide? Bear with me, because a lot of times people may find a position, a job they want to go for, and they may just find out about the position. They may read the job advertisement briefly and right away jump on to building the resume or use a resume that they already have, a template. And that's a problem because quite frankly, I believe that successful resumes, to build a successful resume and cover letter, 80% of the work you do is planning and 20% is developing. If you do the planning correctly, if you do it right, if you're patient and willing to spend time patiently and effectively going over your resume, refining it, building it, telling the story that you want to tell about yourself, then implementation, just writing it, putting it together, it's not difficult. So the planning is the key. So the framework I want you to keep in mind here is that where do you start? When you find out about a position, let's say you found out about a position and you're interested in that position and you're ready to go for it. Okay, the first thing you must do is, after you have found the position, is you need to learn about the position. You must read the job advertisement multiple times. And I don't say just once or twice. I really mean it. I mean 3, 4, even 5 times if you can. Because the job advertisement basically provides you the parameters of the candidate that they are looking for. So you must understand what they are looking for. And once you understand what they are looking for and you learn about the company you are applying to, you know, what do they do? What's their position in the industry that they are in? And does this position in particular conform with your long-term plan or short-term plan? It doesn't matter. So long as it conforms with what you want to do and where you're trying to go to, then it'll be successful for you to spend a lot of time on building your resume and making sure that you try to get that position. And to do that, you have to understand what they want, what they are looking for. If you're just going to go through your position advertisement and just skim through it and jump right away to building your resume, what are you building your resume off of? Just because you saw the title and you're like, yeah, I got this. I'm just going to go ahead and start working on my resume right away. When you haven't perhaps have read the qualifications, the duties and responsibilities, what you are expected to do. How do you feel about those duties and responsibilities? And most importantly are the qualifications. You know, what are they looking for? And then I'll point out why that is important down the line. So as I mentioned, in the job advertisement, you're going to learn about the company. How does the company you're working for going to fit with your long-term plans? Because keep in mind, a lot of times people don't think about this. When you go in and work for a company, let's say you go in, you took the risk not to study the company, to know what the company, the culture of the company, you know, what the company does, what it offers, and where you fit within that company. You go in and something happens. You don't like it. The culture is not friendly. Something happens, you decide to leave 3 months later. That doesn't look good on your resume. That doesn't look good on your reputation as someone who is focused. They know where they want to go. If you're just jumping around from one position to another, which is an issue with a lot of people, especially in our time right now, they just don't know that subconsciously that people and the people that are reviewing the resumes, they can see this. What is going on here? You went for one position, you have three months, 6 months, and then suddenly you have another position and you did that for 8 months. And then after that, you went for another position, and that becomes problematic, especially if you're not sticking to one area. That just basically could send a message that you're not focused, that perhaps you don't know what you want. So it's very important that you spend your time reading the job advertisement, understand the company, you know, reach out even to the company. Reach out, see if you can connect with someone in that company who could provide you insight about what it feels like to work for that company. That's very important for that resume building development process. Now, number 4 is develop a storyline consistent with the position qualifications. Once you have actually read about the job advertisement, you've read it 3, 4, 5 times, you have it solid down, you know what they are looking for. Just like when you write a thesis or a research paper or an essay, write a story, organize that story. How is your resume going to flow? And keep in mind that as you're writing that line, as you're putting together that storyline, you're thinking about, you're trying to contextualize what you're going to say with what they are looking for. Connect the dots between their qualifications, what they think a qualified candidate should have or should know, and what you know about yourself that's consistent with what they want. This is very important. And last but not least, once you have done that, then you are ready to begin your resume building. Now, let me go back to the point I made about why is it important to read the job advertisements? And I can promise you, most likely, I don't think it's the case. I can assure you that when you have gotten hired for a position, you perhaps did not go back and review that job advertisement again and read it and said, let me compare it to what I am doing now. Am I doing what the job advertisement said? Not the case. Just like, think about it, standardized tests. Just because someone does not do well on the GRE or the LSAT or the SAT or ACT, that does not mean that they are not qualified to go to a really good school, top school, or to do well in school in general. That's not the case. Some people are just not good test takers, period. So the score doesn't reflect. But the fact of the matter is, when it comes to the process of college admission, it's the same thing. They still have to have measurable objectives by which they judge candidates. This is the same thing. The job advertisement is that measurable objective that they have, and this is what they go by. And when I say here in the bottom, then begin by resume building, I say why the process, because think about this. As you aim for a bigger company, for a corporation, could be one of the Fortune 500 companies, for instance, the competition is more intense. Now, there's the HR manager and there's the hiring manager. So the hiring manager tells the HR manager, hey, we want a candidate, and this is what we're looking for. The HR manager develops the job advertisement and they put it out to people. Then people apply. Well, guess what? The hiring manager isn't going to be the first person to see your resume, especially as you go higher in the company position or in the company level. So if it's a top-notch company, for Amy, let's say for a big company, Fortune 500 company, it's most likely to go through the HR manager first before it gets to the hiring manager. And keep in mind that the HR manager may or may not know the day-to-day work of the HR manager of the division that they are looking to hire. They have an idea, but they don't live it. They're not there. They're not doing it every day. So what are they going to judge you by? Again, it goes back to that job advertisement. And that's what I mean by you have to have a framework for your resume development. This is very critical. 80% is planning. 20% is execution. If the planning is done right, execution shouldn't be an issue. It ought to be convenient for you. So keep that in mind. So what is and how to think of a resume? A lot of times we think of a resume, oh, I got to look good for the person who's going to review your resume. I'll say no. First thing first is you have to look good for yourself. For yourself. You have to get to know yourself so you can tell your story. No one is going to tell your story for you, because if you leave gaps in your story, guess what? Someone else is going to tell the story for you. Your story is not going to be complete, and someone is going to close the gap. And whatever they come up with through their inference, through their thinking, through their evaluation, it may not reflect truly who you are and what you know. So think about your resume as the first impression. You're not there. You're not interviewing with them. But here's what I want you to do. When you're preparing your resume, when you're writing, putting it together, I want you to write and think as if you are sitting around the table with the hiring manager. Think about what would you want to tell them that makes you a qualified candidate for that position. That's what I mean by first impression, because that's how they're going to get to know you. That's how you get your foot in the door, so to speak. So what's the impression? What's that captivating thought that I am going to find on your resume that's going to make me say, yeah, let's put this resume here. This is a person of interest. We want to go further with them. We want to know more about them. If you're relying on templates, if you're just relying on a resume you've had for the past few months or years, that's not going to work. You constantly have to update your resume, update yourself. Why? Because your ability to express yourself changes. You become better every single day. If you have an appetite for learning, for intellectual hunger, if you're seeking to become better, that's a part of personal development, a topic for another series. Then your resume has to be updated. Let me give you an example. I remember when I was applying for one position, I had to tweak my resume 26 times. And guess what? Cover letters, I didn't write one. I wrote 27 cover letters. For each position, I never ever submitted the same cover letter because I knew it would be problematic. Each position calls for something else. And if you're just trying to throw something, hopefully hoping that something will stick, then that's the wrong mentality. That's the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. Fixed mindset people, they don't want to do the work. They just rely on hope. Well, that doesn't work. While hope is good, you got to work for the best. While hoping for the best, you have to work for the best. So remember, as you're writing that resume, write it as if that person that's going to read it is sitting in front of you and they're going to review it. What is it that you want them to take away from your resume? What's that first impression you want to create? Number one. Number two, keep in mind that they don't know you. They haven't met you. They haven't heard about you. So how are they going to get to know you? Your resume. From your resume, they're trying to infer. By inferring means just to come up with who you are. They want to come up with some thoughts in their mind. Imagine, who is that person? What are they like? Based on what? Based on what's written. Now, let me tell you this. In all honesty, what's written on your resume, no matter how much you try, it would never, ever reflect your true character and what you are capable of. It would never be the case. But you just have to give it your best. Give it your best. If you do the planning correctly, as I mentioned, with that framework I mentioned earlier, and you spend time patiently sitting, reviewing, understanding what they're looking for and how you're going to tell your story so that it fits with who they are, then you'll communicate a message that will be captivating for them. So they want to know, what's your educational level? That's the first thing that goes on your resume. And we'll be seeing a sample resume today. So it's education. Now, it doesn't matter if you have a college degree or not. I don't want you to shy away from applying for a position because you want to change your life. You're ready to make a difference. You're like, you know what? I want to change my life. I want to go for a position. I am really interested in that position, but guess what? I don't have a college degree. It doesn't matter. Never, ever shy away. Never, ever underestimate what you are capable of. Going to college is a blessing, but not everybody could go because circumstances are different for people. But just because you don't have a college degree, that does not mean you should not apply for that position. Even though they may say on their advertisement that you must have. If they say you must, then that's a different case. And I still think, don't give up. If you want the resume, we are all humans. We are all humans. Reach out to the HR office and say, hey, this is my situation. I don't have a college degree, but I do have 8 years of work experience in the field. I don't have a college degree, but I've worked for 4 years. Experience could compensate for educational attainment if it couldn't be attained. Keep that in mind. And last but not least is they want to tell if you have any distinguishing attributes and your personality traits. What kind of person are you? Are you a good communicator? Are you a leader? Are you a problem solver? Are you an analytical person? What kind of person are you? They want to extract these information because keep in mind that the hiring manager has a team. And to try to bring someone from the outside into their team, they want to make sure they fit, just like putting a puzzle together. They want to make sure they bring someone who is going to fit very well and do well and excel in their division or in their program. So keep that in mind as you develop your resume. And last but not least is dress for the occasion, but on paper. I give an example here. I hope it has a sense of humor for you, but I say don't wear gym clothes to a wedding. And that's true. If you go to a wedding, you got to wear proper clothing. Why? Because you're dressing for the occasion. It's a wedding. And vice versa. Don't go to a gym with wedding clothes. It just doesn't make sense. So while the analogy here is dress for the occasion. So let me elaborate on this point. Okay, let's say you're applying for a medical position, whether medical assistant or a nurse or RN or any other position in the medical field. Let's say that you're getting ready to build your resume, you read their advertisement, you have some experience, but your experience has been, let's say you switched. Let's say you were in the educational field. You were a teacher assistant or a teacher, and you just decided to switch. A lot of people say, I'm a teacher. I don't think I would qualify for a medical assistant position. Obviously, in RN it's different because some positions require licensing, and that's the exception to the rule. But at the same time, is if you're switching fields, don't let that dissuade you from applying for that position simply because it's a different field. All you have to do is adjust for the occasion. Sometimes that's why I emphasize know yourself. And that's why I emphasize the resume framework. If you can understand the qualifications that they are looking for, and you can communicate to them, look, yes, I do have experience teaching, working with kids. And this position is a medical field. I'm switching, but just tell your story. Tell them what you learned while working with kids or working in school or teaching or being responsible. Talk about how that position really prepared you for the medical assistant position you're applying. This is just a hypothetical example for you to think about. Tell the story. The story has to be told. Connect the dots. I'll give you another example. Let's say, some people may have, like, as is the case, a person may have had some years in the public sector, and now they're switching to the finance sector, right? And they haven't had a lot of finance background. They're switching. They used to work in the public sector for a government agency. Now they want to switch and work for a private company. Okay, so what kind of background do you have? Okay, tell your story. Maybe in the public sector, you did some budgeting. Yeah, in the private sector, you may be required, if the position requires you to do budgeting. Yeah, I mean, the semantics may be different wording, but the intuition is the same, the logic. Money comes in, money goes out. So the question is, can you tell that story? Can you tell them, hey, you're right. While my background is in the public sector and I am applying for the private sector position, but what I learned in the public sector prepared me for the private sector. And that you have to tell that story on your resume. Make it shine. And I have had encounters with hiring managers, quite frankly, who have had hire people, even though they had background experience in a field that's different than the field they are in. When I asked them why, so you know what, they told the story. They told the story. Yeah, they may have been in the public sector, but we can see they have leadership skills. They have good management skills, team working skills. These are soft skills that we value. We need them for our company. Yeah, you may not know enough budgeting. You may have done some budgeting in the public sector, but you know what? You can work it. If you're ready to learn, if you have hunger to be a better person, a better candidate in your organization, in your firm, and you're willing to learn, then what's the problem? So don't let that dissuade you. Now, let me also touch on a key point. Let's say someone has worked, like as is the case for some Yemeni Americans who work with their families in the retail sector. Okay, don't hesitate to say, oh, well, I worked with my dad or with my family, and I've never worked anywhere else. So how's that going to fit? Not a problem. Not a problem. Build your resume. Start building your resume. Provide them your educational level. And what you have done working in a family business, even though it's family, don't underestimate what you are capable of. From what standpoint am I talking? Don't underestimate the leadership position you are assuming when you are helping your parents manage their business. Don't underestimate the bookkeeping skills that you do. Don't underestimate the ability to account for cash. When money comes in, where does that money go? How do you account for your profits? How do you account for your expenses? All that's valuable information that can go on your resume. Let's say a woman who's never worked, she was a homemaker and she has kids and she was raising the kids. And one day she decided to go to work because, you know what, I need to work. Life changed, circumstances are tough. I must provide for my kids and she has to work. Okay, where does she start from? Again, going back to the same method. Start with your resume framework, understand the qualification, the job that you want to go for. Once you have understood this and you understand yourself, build a resume. Give them your educational level. I don't care if it's elementary school level. That should never, ever stop you from going for it. You have to have self-confidence in yourself. You have to aim for it. Don't never, ever let anything stop you. The worst that can happen is you getting a no. They send you a letter saying, thank you for applying, but we ended up going with someone else. That's fine. Hey, door closes, that's fine. I go knock on the window. The window closes, you know what? I'll carve the wall until I make a hole and get in. One way or the other, you got to keep going. You're always going to get no's in life, but you got to keep trying. So going back to that woman who's ready to go to work, you know what? Include your homemaking skills. Do you think raising kids is not a valuable experience? Do you know interacting with them, especially if you're going for a position that's related to taking care of kids, a daycare facility, a child care facility, a school, a kindergarten school or elementary school? It has pertinence. It relates to what you do as a mother raising kids. Don't let the circumstances that you had to go through dictate your future. What you learn being at home may well have prepared you for a position in life. So don't underestimate that. Okay? And then I would say to everybody, it doesn't matter whether you have a college degree or you don't, or you're going for a college degree now. Education stops when you stop school. Knowledge never stops. Knowledge attainment never stops. You can have a master's or PhD and still be learning every single day. What stops you from picking up a book? What stops you from going online and pursuing a program to develop some kind of skill? Accounting, bookkeeping, coding, programming, computer science, something. No one except you. So it's you that has to make the change. Okay, moving on. All right, so there is a method that I like to utilize, and this is a method I want to share with all of you. And it's a very, very effective method when it comes to your resume, because a lot of times people say, okay, it's just like trying to start an essay, right? It's like, where do I start? It's like the beginning is so tough, and I agree. And that's why I say, if you do the planning right, 80% is planning, 20% is execution. Your resume should only be one page, which we'll talk about on another slide. But for now, it's only one page. It shouldn't take you more than half an hour to put together. That's not the issue, but the planning, what you want to say, organize your thoughts, have the plan, then execute. All right, the STAR method. What is the STAR method? This is another aphorism. Aphorism is basically a saying. It's not about what you did, but what you achieved from what you did. That sounds redundant, right? But think about it for a minute. It's not about what you did, but what you achieved from what you did. That's the key point there. That's what should be on your resume. You know, the lines, the bullet points that you have to put on your resume for your position, that's what the hiring manager is looking for. Because think about it, managers, how do they evaluate people? What do they look at? Results. So to help them put things in perspective as a new candidate, show them results. When you show them results before even hiring you, even though it's not something you did for them, but for someone else, that speaks volume. So you may ask me, okay, where do I start with this method? All right, it's called the STAR method. Number one is on a piece of paper or type it. Describe the situation. And the situation is, STAR stands for situation, task, action, result. So first start with the situation. What is the role you had in the firm or the company or the agency that you were with? What was that position? For example, I'll give an example on the slide here. I served as a marketing manager at XYZ firm, a leading marketing firm in the industry, so-and-so industry. Okay, good. This is the situation. Okay, now I know what was your position and I know what was the company. I learned about something about the company. Good. Task. Okay, now I want to know, while working for that firm, what was your tasks? So basically, what were your duties and responsibilities? What was it that you did? And the example I give here, for instance, it's just all the same story. Remember, I'm a marketing manager at XYZ firm. It's a leading marketing firm in so-and-so industry. Okay, good. It's a marketing firm. Good. Next thing is task, duties and responsibilities. I managed 10 employees and oversaw the execution of the firm's marketing strategy. Good. Okay, so you managed 10 people and you were in charge of the marketing division, basically. You were the manager. Okay, good. Now I have a better understanding. All right. Action. Now, with your duties and responsibilities, what were you after? What were you trying to achieve as a marketing manager? Okay. So you tell them our action was we advertised through social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram, radio and TV. And hence the last point, and it's highlighted in red, the result. Okay, what did you achieve from your position? What were some of the accomplishments that you had while serving in that position? I give an example here. Our marketing increased our marketing increased sales by 10% over a period of 12 months. Bam, that's it. That line should be on your resume. I managed the marketing team and we helped increase sales by 10% over a 12 months period. Bam, this is powerful. That's what should be on your resume. Oftentimes, the pitfalls that some people make when they write their resume is they say, I served as a marketing manager. Well, that's beautiful. Good for you. You're a manager, but tell me, I want to know more. So don't let the reader be hungry for more information. It's like, okay, that's good. Okay, you're a marketing manager. Kind of sounds related to what we're looking for, but tell me more. What did you do? What did you achieve? What were the results that you accomplished? And that's what they are after. I served as a marketing manager and we increased sales by 10% over a 12 months period. Bam. Okay, find another scenario. Okay, go through the process: situation, task, action, result. And when you get to that result, that's what should go on your resume. And this is actually a method that's used in interviewing as well. We will have another presentation on interviewing, which I'm confident that you'll find helpful. So we'll revisit this. And this lecture is recorded, so you can always come back to it and extract the information you need. All right, so the structure of your resume, as I mentioned, this is a general template of a resume structure. So basically, in the beginning, you always say, what's your educational level? It doesn't matter whether you have an education or not, whether you went to school or not, still say something. I have completed, my high school diploma. I have a GED. I completed middle school. Okay, write the middle school. That's not a problem. Or you may have vocational training. You may have some kind of certification. Put it down on there. Even though if you don't have a high school diploma, but you did some vocational training and you have a certification, put it on there. It's related to educational attainment. It shows that you're willing to learn, that you're willing to educate yourself. Okay? So second is professional experience. And this is actually the most important section on your resume, actually, I would say. So I would say I would give it maybe a 60 or 70% importance. It's your professional experience. This is where you have worked and what you have done, or what you have accomplished. This is very important. This is, again, going back to that STAR method I discussed, this is where you want to put that information. I've worked for this firm, this firm, this firm, and this is what I did. Bam, 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 bam. I lay down the information in that section. Basically, professional experience and what you have done. And then extracurricular. Do you do something outside of work? Could be you're a volunteer, you're a board member on so-and-so on a religious institution or on a nonprofit board, or you do something to help the community, give back. That's good. That shows that you care and you have empathy and you're willing to give back and help your community. This is great. And then lastly, you can include some, if you have some special awards, you've been awarded the Employee of the Month or Employee of the Year, something. You may want to list that on there. It kind of helps, polish your resume. It polishes you, just like, trying to make it look good. Put some gel or put some makeup on, so on and so forth. That's what it is. That's what these things do. So focus on your professional experience section. This is the most important, I would say. And then the other ones will come handy afterwards. So make sure you put that. And then special skills. If you have some kind of certification in coding, if you have other languages, if you speak, let's say, another language, Spanish, like I speak Spanish and Arabic, I can list under my, special skills section. I can say language, and I say English, Arabic, Spanish, and that's what it is. All right. So some resume highlights. I want you to think about this once you have developed your resume. If you're curious what these hiring managers are looking for, basically I divide them into two sections, literally. One is quantitative / job related skills. This is skills related to the job that they want to hire you for. Like, some analytical skills, budgeting, research, administrative, medical, coding, finance, business, legal writing, marketing, sales, so on and so forth. So that's something specifically related to the position you are applying for. But another area they also look for is qualitative / behavioral traits. What does that mean? Like leadership skills from your position. Have you been a manager? Are you a team player? For instance, on a project that you worked on, maybe you were the leader in that project and you helped lead the team, and you were, motivating your teammates and trying to keep the group motivated until they got the project done. Patience. This is a virtue. Patience is a virtue. When you describe a crisis, because sometimes one question you may be asked in an interview is describe a problem that you have had or a crisis and how you dealt with it. So that's what your communication skills, problem solving skills. So this is behavioral. And when we get to the interview presentation, we'll talk about some of these things because they actually, their importance become even more important when you do the interview, more so on a resume. All right, contours of resume development. So again, like I said, this goes back to the point I made about being authentic and honest. Okay, be truthful. Don't try to fabricate. Don't mention something that you did not do. Okay, if something you never touched, you never been around, you didn't do, don't do that. That's unacceptable. It's unlawful, to say the least, and it's just not right. So know yourself, know what you have done, but you know what I'll say here, without overlooking importance of shining on your resume. Hey, shine yourself. Sometimes it comes down to descriptive skills, how you describe what you did. That's what it is. One task could be described in different ways. And if you could be as descriptive as you could be in terms of, polishing how to say it, like the word nice is not the same as good. And the word good is not the same as great, right? It's not the same. Pretty and beautiful describe. They have the same connotation, but different meanings to some extent. So the words you use to describe what you did matters. And that's what I mean about shining. Shine by describing what you did in a manner that's captivating. Number two, this is very, very important. Sometimes people try to be too persuasive to the extent that they use too many adjectives. Stay away from adjectives as much as you can, and stay away from passive language. Okay, let me give you an example. I was being helpful to my team. Hey, I helped my team. Helpful is an adjective. I helped my team. See, I helped my team. I was being helpful to my team. More wording, unnecessary. It's just unnecessary. Be as crystal clear as you can be. So that's why I highlight and the three key words here: clarity, concision, and specificity. This is very important. Just be simple. You don't have to use big words to show that, he's a good communicator. That's not what it is. Sometimes simple things have so much meaning. They convey a lot of meaning. It's not so much on what the words you use. It's rather the delivery of those words. It's better to convey a simple message that the other party can understand than to deliver a complex, a grandiose, beautifully polished sentence that's just so difficult to synthesize, to understand. What good is it? So get to the point, be straight, use simple language. Use simple language as much as you can. Keep in mind, okay, this is something that a lot of people don't know. As we advance technologically, some big companies, like Fortune 500 companies, and big, in the banking, medical, business, and educational fields or industry, they have begun to use machines, algorithmic methods to review resumes. What does that mean? Imagine one position is being advertised and it's open for 2 months. And for that position, maybe 3,000 people applied for it, or 5,000. Do you think the HR manager has time to go through all these 3,000 resumes? No. So what they have begun to do is they'll build an algorithm, and the algorithm is actually coded to captivate specific wording within a resume, right? So if you are in the finance world, for instance, they probably get they may include words like finance, like accounting, like profits, like revenues, like numbers, okay? And that algorithm catches, so when you submit your resume, it goes through the machine, so the algorithm, and they scan it for these specific wordings. If your resume does not meet the threshold of the algorithm that's been coded to identify if your resume, if you're a good candidate for the position, it'll just go to their spam folder, basically. And basically, it's a folder that they're not going to look at it. They're just going to put it away to the side, and then you get a message later on say, thank you for applying. We have considered someone else. So be careful with that. So that's why it goes back to the point I was making about cater, dress for the occasion, but on paper. make sure that when you're applying for a medical field, try to use some medical terminology on your resume. If you're applying for a finance or econ or business field, make sure on each line you have numbers. You have terminology related to these fields because it makes sense. You're in the finance world. I don't care about medical, okay? But if you're applying for finance, I want to see profitability. You know, if you helped increase profitability, if you helped increase sales, if you helped, cut down expenses. I want to see stuff like that on your resume. I want to see numbers. I was one time on an interview. It was actually a Zoom meeting, an interview boot camp, and one of the staff members actually works for JP Morgan, and she mentioned this. She said that one thing that they look for when they review resumes is concision, right? And if you're applying for a field in the finance world, they would like to see some kind of numbers on each line. Tell us what you did. Going back to that STAR method, to that point, what did you do? And what did you achieve from what you did? So keep that in mind. So don't forget the artificial intelligence, the AI's thing, because actually companies have begun to implement this. They don't have time to review thousands of resumes. Now they use machines. Go through the machine. It throws out the ones that don't have the proper criteria or don't meet the criteria, and it keeps the ones they identified as potential candidates. Word choice, like I said, must be catered. Going back to use, if you're applying for a medical field, try to use some medical terminology. Finance, try to use numbers, and business, and so on and so forth. Linking your resume with positions, duties, and responsibilities. Going back to that framework. Once you have studied wholeheartedly and entirely the job advertisement, when it comes to building your storyline and getting ready to build that resume, keep what they were looking for as you're writing that resume. Keep that in mind so that it's consistent, it conforms. You tell a cohesive story to them. And then there's another rule that I've learned a while back about big companies, especially big companies. And I would say even this is general across the board with hiring managers. They literally have the minute and a half rule, meaning if the manager cannot read your resume in a minute and a half, that means something is wrong with your resume. Maybe it's just too much, too crowded, too many big words. The sentences are not clear. It's just not conveying the point or the idea correctly. It's all over the place. It's not done or formatted properly. So make sure that, once you have developed your resume, have someone review it. Have 2, 3, 4 people, a mentor, a teacher, a professor, someone review it and see if they can actually read it in a minute and a half. Say, hey, how long did it take you to read my resume? So that you can see if they stumbled upon something they couldn't grasp, you want to fix that before you submit that resume. Next is formatting. Remember, some companies, they have specific formatting. There are people, they don't read the advertisements for one, and they don't go on the company's career website. That's the pitfall they commit. And they just go and submit 2, 3 page resume. When on their website, it says, we will not consider a resume over 1 page. Hey, if they're being specific about the formatting and the size and the font and everything, stick to what they want. It's not when it comes to rules, you got to stick to the rules. If you cannot follow the rules, what do you think says something about you? What kind of message are you sending? That you don't follow the rules, that you don't look, you don't study, you don't review. So keep that in mind. Formatting, font between 10 and 12. Times New Romans is the font that's generally accepted for a resume. The margins, 1.5 inches, and make sure it's consistent across from the beginning to the end of the resume. Don't have bullet points away from each other. One is in and the other is out. Don't do that. Indentation, be careful with that too. Everything has to fit beautifully, just like a puzzle in the end when you put it together. And last but not least, is free of grammatical and sentence errors. A lot of people overlook the importance of grammar and sentence errors. Think about it. Honestly, if you're a hiring manager, ask yourself that question and you receive a resume and it has grammatical errors. For one, you can't read the resume. It's just so hard to read because there's too many mistakes on there. For two, what is that thought that would come to your mind about the candidate? Number one, he didn't perhaps review his resume. Number two, he probably doesn't know how to communicate properly. And number three, he is not disciplined. Otherwise, why would he send a resume that's not reviewed? He could have had someone to review it for him. But look, he was willing to submit a resume that really looks bad. And that's not a person I would hire if I was a hiring manager. Because it speaks volume about your discipline, about your communication skills, about your attention to details. Okay. All right, let's look at a sample resume briefly. And I'm using a resume. I got to give credit to Harvard University Career website. I mean, look, this presentation wasn't so much about, hey, let me help you build your resume. I would say build your resume, and if you want help with specifics on a resume, AAYSP has a fantastic newly built mentoring program, and there are mentors in different fields, from finance to medical to educational to others. You can reach out to a mentor and say, hey, would you review my resume? Okay, make sure you do that. I got a question here. Let's see. Okay, so I have Hanan is asking, what should the font size be in resume and cover letter? As I mentioned, 10 to 12, font 10 to 12. If you're trying to fit more information, if you started with font 12, try to scale it down to 11 or even 10, but do not go lower than 10. 10 is the minimum. And then do your best. Believe me, as I mentioned to you, if you go back to your resume, after you develop your resume and your cover letter, do not review them right away. Set them aside, okay? Set them aside, and maybe for a few hours or for a day, and come back to your resume and cover letter, then look over them and review them. And I can assure you that you will find some ideas that you can cut. I mean, you can communicate the same message, but in smaller number of words. And that's critical. All right. Don't just, build it. It's like, I can't wait to be done with this. Well, that's not how it works. Again, it goes back to 80% planning, 20% execution. If you have a storyline, you should just follow that storyline when you're writing that cover letter on your resume. Bam, 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 bam. And then give it some time, come back, review it, cut, make this sound better, cut some wording here, get rid of adjectives, get rid of passive words. And then after you have done that, put it down again, take away some time because your brain's still active. Everything's still, nuanced. So move away, get away from your resume and cover letter, come back again, give yourself time. That's what it comes down to. If you're aiming to secure that position, you got to work hard for it. If you're just going to go meet the simplistic and the most easy terms, then expect what you expect, meaning not getting the position. So you got to work hard for it. Adib is asking, how do you come across as an achiever and not just a doer? Results. That's what it comes down to. What differentiates an achiever from a doer is results. In any position that you have held, what results did you achieve? And it goes back to the aphorism I mentioned, the saying I said about, it's not just about what you did. What you did is great, but what we are interested in, what did you achieve from what you did? That's the takeaway there, and that's what distinguishes people who are successful from unsuccessful people. The doers versus the achievers. So if you want to come out as an achiever, show that you have results, that you have increased sales by so-and-so percentage, that you have helped, 15 students get into a top schools, that you have, helped, a crowd of 25 students improve their reading skills from 3rd grade level to 6th grade level. I don't care what it is, but show results. That's what it comes down to. Because the doers, they're not interested in results. They don't even have results to report. They're just doing. And the achiever cannot settle for doing. Achievers are looking for something. They're hungry to show that they have done something. Another question, Ellie is asking, is it worth it to invest in a professional resume writer? Quite frankly, I have not done it personally. There are some people who may struggle with communication skills, which is understandable, especially if English is their second language or third language, or if they have been in the States for some time and they're still learning. don't be afraid to ask for help. It's fine. I don't think it's an issue. But what you want to do is, I would say, before you go to that professional writer, because remember, the professional writer is a human being just like you. As he's writing, as he's downloading his thoughts that he received from you onto a piece of paper, now his own bias, his own way of thinking and writing, of doing things is going to come into play. And in the process, it's going to affect how your resume is written. So what I would suggest is go back to that framework, understand the position you're applying for, prepare your storyline, prepare what you want to communicate, what you're looking to show and say, and then convey that to the professional writer so they know exactly what you're looking for. So you're hoping that they're gonna write the resume in a manner that would be satisfactory to you and effective to the hiring manager. All right, let me. I'll go back to this sample resume. Let me just quickly go over the cover letter. As I mentioned, the cover letter, unlike let's see. All right, the cover letter, unlike the resume, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because, quite frankly, the resume is the key. It's the key piece of information that you're going to communicate. So the reason some places they may ask for a cover letter, this is something you may not have heard in the past, but keep in mind that they're also looking for other skills besides your analytical, your quantitative skills or job-related skills. They may be looking for soft skills, right? How do you communicate? So when you write your cover letter, how are you communicating, right? How you're speaking? How are you putting your thoughts on a piece of paper? Because remember, if they have to task you with writing a letter to a client, or if you have to draft a report to your state assembly or to your president, but I don't care, someone, if you have to draft a letter, do they have to look over you? Do they have to go back and review a letter once, twice, three, and tell you, you got to fix this grammar, you got to fix that? They're fishing for information, and the cover letter helps them do that. Number one. Number two, a lot of people make the mistake, that's the predicament that they have, of copying what's on your resume directly onto their cover letter. And that's not how it works. You know, imagine this. When a company tells you we want a cover letter in addition to our resume, they're basically giving you more space to share information about yourself. So why would you tell them something that they already know? They know your name, they'll know who you are, they know the positions you've had, they see it on your resume. So why are you telling them what's on your resume on a cover letter? Why? This does not make sense. So how do you fix that? Okay, I say it on the here on the slide. Resume, the cover letter complements the resume. It does not mirror the resume, meaning it's not a copycat of a resume. No, what you're trying to do now is you say, okay, I have my resume. These are the skills I claimed I have and the results I showed. And now going back again to the resume framework, why it's so critical to read the job advertisement once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. Understand what they are looking for. And once you have those two, your resume and what they're looking for, then comes the cover letter to marry them. The cover letter is going to marry your resume with the job advertisement, because now you're basically telling them in a story form. Instead of bullet points on a resume, now you're telling a story. And if you've done the planning properly from the beginning, then the story is going to flow beautifully. Now, what you need to know is that you cannot tell everything that's on your resume. When it comes to a cover letter, what you have to do is you have to take 1 or 2 successful examples of something you've done and you're proud of, and see how you can say something about what you achieve, whether it's a project or a division you manage or something. Say how the work you did in that division or with that project, how it prepared you for the job you're going to do with that company or with the firm or agency. That's what they're looking for on our cover letter. So just like writing an essay, think of it this way. With a cover letter, you have 3 sections. It's just 1 page. All right, 1 page. Intro, discussion, conclusion. Your intro, just 2-3 sentences. To whom we may concern, or it's better to find out who the hiring manager is. Don't hesitate to go on their website and look. So you can put the name, address the letter to them, okay? And then say the introduction. I am interested in this position and where you found the position. And maybe one line about why you are interested in this position. And then second paragraph, you go into two paragraphs. You can cut them in 2 paragraphs or 1 big paragraph, preferably two paragraphs, so it's nice and clear and concise. And then tell a story. Pick those 2 examples I mentioned and tie them, the success of what you learned, what you have, what you know how to do, and the skills you have, how they prepared you for that position you're applying for. Okay. And then lastly is the conclusion. And in the conclusion, you're just thanking them for the opportunity, and you ask them for an interview so you can further discuss your qualifications with them. That's it. That's what a cover letter is. You don't repeat what's on the resume. You don't dwell too much on lines you have mentioned. Now you have to translate the resume and connect it with the job advertisement. Marry those 2, and you got a coherent cover letter. Again, the same lessons from the resume when it comes to the cover letter, same rules apply. Be careful with the language you use. Don't try to sound too fancy, trying to use big words, thinking that's going to make you sound so professional, so captivating. That's not the case. No. Remember this. When it comes to writing your resume or your cover letter, okay, what you have done or what you have achieved is important. It is important. However, if you communicate that the wrong way, then what you know and what you have has been devastated. Just like having a good idea. Imagine having a good idea or a good product you're trying to sell to a team or to your boss or supervisor or to the people or consumers. You have a really good product, but you know what? Deliver that product the wrong way, and that product is devastated. That's it. Or will be worthless. Because delivery is as important as the idea or the product. A good idea or a good product delivered to the public the wrong way will have no value. Keep that in mind as you're writing your resume and your cover letter. And last but not least is review, then submit. Don't just hasten. Oh, I can't wait to get this done. Hey, if that's how you are, if you're a fixed mindset person, meaning you're just aiming for the low-hanging fruits. If that's you, that's fine, but expect the worst. Expect the worst. But if you're trying to stand out, you got to do what you got to do in meeting expectations. Let me answer some questions here. Okay. So I have Shoki's asking some positions that people apply to say the applicant is overqualified. Is that an issue, and how to solve it? Could you restate the question? Oh, if I understand the question correctly, and you may correct the question if you want, just rephrase it. If you're saying that sometimes you could be an overqualified person for a position that's just well beyond you, you can go in and do it. I mean, if I was a hiring manager, why would I stay away from hiring an overqualified person? Sometimes there are myths that people come up with. I mean, think about it. Would I want to hire someone I have to train and be on top all the time and have to show them every step of the way? Or hire someone who knows what they're doing? I just got to come in. They just got to come in. I brief them and bam, and they get to work. Think about it. It's common sense. So just because people say they're overqualified, I can understand something. Here is where the overqualification issue may arise. Sometimes hiring managers and companies may think that, and that is true. That's in many instances the case. If you are overqualified for the position, sometimes they think you're only applying for this position as a milestone toward another position. It's like a temporary job, and don't blame them for thinking that way. If that's how you're coming out across as an overqualifier, hey, maybe you need to tone down your resume, cater your resume. It goes back to dress for the occasion. Tone down your resume. But I mean, don't blame the company if they don't want to hire someone who's short-term, or going after a short-term position, because they're going to hire you. They're going to spend money, energy, and time training you. It's just not right for them to hire for a short time, and then you tell them, hey, goodbye, thanks for the training, thanks for everything, I'm going somewhere else. So you can understand why, if you're overqualified, they may think, it just doesn't sound right. This guy, he could go for something better. So why is he applying for this position? And that's where the issue may arise, and it can possibly be the case. Okay, Hanan is asking, I attended multiple schools and have extracurriculars and awards. Should I omit some achievements to fit it in one page? Yes. Yes, Hanan. To be direct, yes. You got one page is one page. All resumes should be one page. I don't accept resumes more than one page. If you cannot tell your story on one page, then that's an issue. And that's why, you know what? If you want to cut it short so I can be helpful to you in answering this question, a lot of people have a lot of great things they want to say, but you know what? Then rank them. Rank your awards, rank your positions, rank your extracurricular activities, and see which ones best fit with your story that you want to tell the company you're applying for. Right? So I can assure you that, yes, sometimes you may find 2 awards that are so good, or 2 extracurricular activities, or 2 schools. You know what? Sometimes you got to make a decision. You got to make a choice, right? And it comes down to what is it that you want to get out of your resume. So I would say cut down as much as you can, and just focus on the main ones, the ones that would communicate or help you polish your resume. But again, if the company says one page, it's one page. Don't even dare to go more than one page. And if you do that, it only hurt your chances of getting the position. Aziz is asking, can I skip some info from my job history because it was my bad times? Definitely, yes. Here's one thing I would say. Sometimes if you try to skip, or if you have, let's say you had a job and then you left the job and then for 6 months you didn't work, and then you got hired for another company. So there's a gap, right? And it's no different than just dropping the job altogether. Maybe it's a job that it didn't go so well with the company or the manager, and you ended up leaving. I would say if you have a gap, don't shy away from including the information if there's a gap. But there's one thing that you could be about 60% sure of. They may ask you about it. So if they like you, if they like what's on your resume and they think you're a good candidate, they want to hear more from, and when you do the interview, they're going to ask you that question. Normally, if you have 2 or 3 people on the interviewing committee, one of them may look at the resume and say, okay, well, there's a gap here. What happened there? And you can just tell your story. Now, if you do skip a position that you're not happy about disclosing, I would recommend, so that you don't have the gap, because you don't want to lie. You don't want to lie, because if they ask you, why is there a gap? Let's say they ask, hey, why is there a gap on your resume? And you say, because I didn't work, and you actually had that job and it didn't go well, then that wouldn't be great. Okay? That wouldn't be great. Okay? I would say still include it, but try to include the highlights of what you enjoyed from that position, what you learned, what you achieved, even though maybe minimal. Hey guys, let me mention this. This is very important. Sometimes it's okay to include the company and just one line. Just one line. Like, include something that you are proud of. Like, what is it that when you were there, that's something that you did and you achieved? A result. Put it in there, even if it's just one line. Don't hesitate. If it thinks it contributes to telling your story, then that's important. Okay, I think this is all I have. I've been taking questions as I go. Let me share with you the samples, which you can find online. If you go to Harvard University career website, you'll find it. And this is just basic. Just wanted to show you briefly, what the resume and cover letter look like as far as formatting. They even give you tips on some words you can use, active verbs, to use on your resume. They even tell you here, for instance, this is what you don't want to do. Like, don't use slang. Okay, don't use colloquial language, like, street language. Don't do that. List references, include, information that, like a heading, be consistent with the spacing and formatting. So they'll tell you what you shouldn't do and what you should do. That information is very helpful, and they know exactly what they're talking about. So I would say, if you're interested, go to Harvard University Career website, and you can just extract the information at no cost whatsoever. Okay. These are some of the verbs, active verbs that you can use, because you don't want to use a verb, multiple times. It sounds redundant. I administrated, or I managed. It becomes annoying. Use different words, and the list of words here would help you change the wording a bit, so it sounds new, sounds fresh, and that's what you want to do. And they even divide it by different areas, like research, technical, teaching, quantitative, creative, helping, organizational. This is very, very helpful. All right. And I'm going to have Adi post this link on our comment box so you can have access to it. So this is what a resume would look like. This is a really professional resume for someone who, may see with the college degree. But like I said, if you don't have a college degree, if you're a mother and you've never worked, if you're a person who's never gone to school, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. This is just, let me show you something before I get to that point. This is an example of the formatting. Just basically, you can put the city and the state and the date you were there. Okay. And then the position, like the place. This is education, right? As you can see, it starts with education, and then section 2 is the experience. Okay, you can go back and view it yourself. They'll tell you how to organize things. And then, like I said, and then leadership skills, and then skills and interest. All right, this is another option here. This person here, for instance, did not have any job experience. He's never worked, or she's never worked. Imagine if you've never worked ever. Here, maybe you're a single mom, something happens in life. Something happened in life, and you decided to, wanted to put food on the table, and you want to know, where to go with the resume. This is it right here. This person has never had a job in the past. So what they did is they did the education on top, and if you don't have it, feel free to put whatever educational level you have, just include it on there. And if you have some kind of self-taught or self-paced educational experience, online or certification, put it on there and develop yourself. Okay, develop yourself, work on yourself. Don't just sit back expecting heaven to descend, blessings on you. That's not going to work. Put your effort. Okay, educate yourself. Go get some certifications. There are so many websites. There are courses online for free where you can enroll and perfect and enhance your skills and improve your abilities. Here, look. So they did education, and in the middle, public service experience. Hey, you can include your homemaker experience, raising kids, and, write 2 or 3. What experience did you learn from raising kids? Include it. Any skills you have, anything that you think would be helpful to communicate who you are, even though you may not have had experience. Or let's say you're a Yemeni who has worked with their family at the store, and you think that doesn't count. It counts. It counts. It counts. Put it on there. Okay, put it on there. And if you need help, reach out to a mentor. AAYSP, again, has a mentoring program. I think it's a fantastic program. You should jump on it and take advantage of it. All right. So there are templates. You go on there, find the template, and follow the template, and it's easy peasy. You go on there and just get it done. Follow the formatting. And then when you're done with your resume, remember framework, then storyline, then build your resume. And then after you build your resume, have someone review it. Okay. And then this is, 4 templates, 4 different templates, and they're catering this to different people. People who have jobs, people with higher education, like a master's degree or PhD, people who have had so many experience, and people with no experience whatsoever. They give you templates to go back and review to build your own resume. And lastly, this is, again, a cover letter, writing an effective cover letter. That's it. It comes down to this: opening paragraph states what you want, your interest. Middle paragraph, explain why you are interested in the employer, your reasons for desiring this work. And if you have relevant work, again, it goes back to what I said, 1 or 2 examples of successful stories that you have experiences, and tie those experiences to the job that they are applying for. How did those experiences prepare you for that position? Don't try to include too many things at one time. It's better to do 1, 2 and do them well than to do 4 or 5 and you're like all over the place. I did here, and I did here, and then here. I'm like, God, Lee, relax, focus. All right. And then just close it with thanking them for the opportunity and ask for an interview. Again, I am going to have Adib post this link because I cannot distribute this without permission from Harvard University. You can go back and review it. And lastly, before I end this, I like just to go back to the last slide here and mention that here are some resources. If you say, hey, Abraham, where do I go from here? I need some help, some resources. Okay. Harvard, MIT, Georgetown, Stanford, Yale, and Princeton, and every university from community college all the way to university level, all the way to private college. They all have career websites. And on their career websites, there are abundant of informations and examples and templates and information. You can go on there and they'll walk you through step by step on how to build a resume. Number 1. Number 2, here's my recommendation. After you have learned and you developed your resume, ask for help. Have your teacher review it. Have your professor review it. Have a supervisor review it. Have someone who is experienced to review your resume. Okay? Have someone do it. Don't be afraid. Don't be like, oh, I can't share this information with someone on my resume because they're going to find out maybe I'm not too good. Or, hey, trust in your judgment. Okay? You cannot control how people think. But what you can control is how you react to what people say and think. All right? It's your choice. You have a choice to either focus on building yourself, and yes, there'll be times where you may be weak. You have weaknesses. We all do. But what matters is, are you willing to strengthen your weaknesses? That's what differentiates an achiever from a doer. Are you willing to work hard and get up and become better? And if that's you, never ever be afraid to say, I am not good at this, but you know what? I will get good at this. That's what I'm saying. And third is use your mentors. AAYSP just launched a new mentoring program, and there are so many fantastic individuals in different fields. Reach out, schedule a 30-minute talk. What do you have to lose? In fact, we ought to be appreciative of these mentors because they're giving away time from their life to you, to help you. So take advantage of it. That's like people saying, hey, I'm giving you free time. Come, ask for help and we will help. And last but not least is if you are in school, your school career specialist, you can send them your resume and they will review it. They'll give you feedback and they'll tell you this is good, this is not, and give you some suggestions on improvements. And this is all I have. I hope I know I was really enthusiastic about the presentation. It must have gone for long. But I want it to be as specific and as detailed as possible because it's going to be recorded and you can always go back down the line in the future and review the recording in case you missed something or you want to kind of re-solidify a concept that I mentioned in these presentations. And thank you so much for your time and attention. And I'm open to questions now. Until everyone leaves, then I'll leave after that. Okay, I'm going to send the link to, I will send the link to Adib. All right, just give me a second. There it is. All right, thank you. I appreciate your presence.